For 20 years, Marcus Chun carried a bag everywhere he went. His family thought it was strange. His co-workers whispered behind his back. But when a mysterious merchant finally opened that bag in front of everyone, what spilled out wasn't what anyone expected. It was something far more devastating. If you've ever felt like you're carrying something heavy that no one else can see, you're not alone. This story is for you. Subscribe and join thousands of others who are learning to travel lighter. Drop a comment and tell me, what's one thing you're ready to let go of? Now, let's meet Marcus. Marcus Chen's hand trembled as he reached for his coffee cup, the familiar weight of his leather messenger bag pulling at his shoulder. 27 years old, and he couldn't remember the last time he'd set it down. Not at work, not at home, not even in the shower, where it sat just outside the glass door, within arm's reach. "You're doing it again," his girlfriend Sarah said quietly across the breakfast table. Former girlfriend, technically. She'd moved out 3 weeks ago, but still came by for these uncomfortable morning rituals, as if hoping to find a man she'd fallen in love with 2 years earlier. Doing what? Marcus's jaw clenched automatically, that old familiar tension creeping up his neck. That thing with your face, like you're preparing for battle. "We're just having breakfast, Marcus." He wanted to snap back, to tell her she didn't understand, that she couldn't possibly comprehend the constant vigilance required to navigate a world designed to hurt you. But he'd learned that saying such things only proved her point. So instead, he took a breath and forced his features into something resembling calm. "I'm fine." Sarah's eyes glistened. "No, you're not. You haven't been fine since the day I met you. And I don't think you were fine for a long time before that." The bag seemed to grow heavier on his shoulder. Marcus stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the hardwood floor with a sound like a scream. "I have to get to work." Marcus. But he was already out the door, the morning air hitting his face like a slap. The early commute through downtown Seattle was a gauntlet he ran every weekday, each interaction a potential threat. Someone bumped into him without apologizing. Stone in the bag. A driver cut him off at the crosswalk. Another stone. The barista who'd gotten his order wrong yesterday smirked when he walked past the coffee shop. He could feel the weight increasing. No one else could see the stones. Of course. To everyone else, Marcus just looked like an angry young man with a leather bag. Remarkable only in how unremarkable that was in a city full of angry young men with leather bags. But Marcus felt every ounce of weight, every jagged edge pressing into his consciousness. The architecture firm where he worked occupied the 15th floor of a glass tower overlooking Puget Sound. Marcus had always loved the view, or at least, he remembered loving it once, years ago, before the weight became too much to bear. Now the beauty just seemed like another insult, nature's way of mocking his internal ugliness. "Morning, Marcus." Jennifer from accounting chirped as he entered. Her relentless cheerfulness was an assault. 3 years ago, at the company holiday party, she'd made a joke about his intense personality. He'd laughed it off, but the comment had burrowed into him like a tick, feeding on his blood ever since. He grunted in response and headed to his desk. The bag thudded against the chair as he sat, and he winced. It was getting heavier. Every year, every month, every day, heavier. "Chun, my office, now." David Park, the senior partner, stood in his doorway with his arms crossed. Marcus's stomach clenched. David had once been a mentor, back when Marcus first joined the firm fresh out of grad school. But 2 years ago, David had taken credit for Marcus's design on the Belltown project, presenting it to the client as his own. Marcus had confronted him privately, and David had smiled, actually smiled, and said, "That's how this business works, kid. You'll understand when you're older." Marcus had been carrying that smile in his bag ever since. In David's office, the older man gestured to a chair, but Marcus remained standing, the bag strap cutting into his shoulder like a blade. "The Morrison project." David began. "I'm reassigning it." "What?" "That's mine. I've been working on it for 6 months. And now Chun Lu will finish it. She has a better rapport with the client." Chun Lu, the associate who'd started the same week as Marcus, who'd once confided in him about her struggles, who he'd helped through a difficult pitch presentation. The same Chun Lu who'd gone behind his back to David with concerns about Marcus's aggressive communication style. This is because of what she said, isn't it? Marcus's voice was ice. She stabbed me in the back, and you're rewarding her for it. David's expression hardened. I'm doing what's best for the firm. Your attitude lately has been concerning. Maybe some time off the high-profile projects will help you reset. The bag groaned on Marcus's shoulder, swelling with the weight of this new betrayal. He wanted to explode, to sweep everything off David's pristine desk, to finally unleash the fury that had been building inside him since. Since when? When had it started? Marcus couldn't even remember anymore. Fine, he said through gritted teeth, and turned to leave. Marcus. David called after him. I mean this genuinely. You should talk to someone. This anger, it's eating you alive. Marcus slammed the door, so hard the glass walls shook. The rest of the day passed in a haze of rage. Every email was an attack. Every meeting was a battlefield. By the time Marcus left the office at 7 p.m., he could barely stand upright under the weight of the bag. His shoulder had gone him an hour ago, but he couldn't set it down. Wouldn't set it down. This was his. This weight, this pain, this accumulation of every slight and betrayal and humiliation, it belonged to him. The evening air had turned cold, and the sidewalks were emptying as Marcus walked aimlessly through Pike Place Market. The smells of fresh fish and baked bread that usually made his mouth water now just seemed nauseating. Everything was too much, too loud, too bright, too. That's quite a burden you're carrying, young man. Marcus spun around. An old man sat on a wooden crate outside a closed shop, his weathered face creased with either concern or amusement. Marcus couldn't tell which. He wore simple clothes, faded and patched, but clean. His eyes were the color of storm clouds, and they seemed to look through Marcus rather than at him. "Excuse me." "Your bag," the old man said, nodding toward Marcus's shoulder. "It looks heavy." "It's fine." "Is it?" The man stood with surprising grace, for someone who must have been 70 if he was a day. "I'm Samuel. I have a small shop here, though I don't open it much anymore. Mostly I just watch people." He paused. "People like you, carrying weight that doesn't belong to them." Marcus felt something sharp twist in his chest. "You don't know anything about me." "Don't I?" Samuel's smile was kind but unsettling. "I know you've been angry for a very long time. I know that anger started as protection and became a prison. I know you think you're carrying evidence, but really you're carrying chains. Look, I don't need some homeless guy playing therapist. I'm not homeless, and I'm not playing anything." Samuel's eyes locked with Marcus's, and for the first time in years, Marcus felt truly seen. "I've been waiting for you." "Waiting for me? That's insane. I've never met you before in my life." "No, but I've met 1,000 people like you. People who collect stones instead of letting them fall. People who build their own prison cell, brick by brick, and then wonder why they can't see the sky." Samuel reached out, not quite touching the bag, but hovering his hand just above it. "Tell me, Marcus, when was the last time you felt light?" The question struck Marcus like a physical blow. He tried to remember and came up empty. Had he ever felt light? There must have been a time, mustn't there? But the memories were buried under too much weight, too many years of accumulation. "I don't." Marcus's voice cracked. "I don't know." "Then perhaps," Samuel said gently, "it's time we looked in that bag." Marcus should have walked away. Every instinct screamed at him to run from this strange old man with his knowing eyes and unsettling words. But something kept his feet rooted to the damp pavement. Maybe exhaustion, maybe curiosity, maybe the first stirring of hope he'd felt in years. "What do you mean, look in the bag?" Marcus asked. "It's just my work stuff. Laptop, notebooks, the usual." Samuel's smile was sad. "Is that what you tell yourself?" Before Marcus could respond, the old man turned and unlocked the door to the shop behind him. The sign above read "Burdens and Releases" in faded gold lettering. "Come, let me show you something." Against his better judgment, Marcus followed Samuel into the small shop. The interior was nothing like what he expected. Instead of typical merchandise, the space was filled with bags, suitcases, boxes, and containers of every size and description. Some were dusty and clearly ancient. Others looked brand new. All of them sat empty, displayed on shelves and tables like museum pieces. "What is this place?" Marcus asked. "A museum of what people carry," Samuel replied, moving among the displays with the ease of long familiarity. "Or rather, what they carried until they learned to let go." He picked up a small child's backpack, faded and worn. This belonged to a woman named Claire. She carried it for 40 years after her brother drowned. Inside it, she kept every cruel word her mother spoke in grief. "Why couldn't it have been you? He was a good one. I wish you'd never been born." Every time her mother said something like that, Claire picked up another stone and put it in this backpack. Marcus's throat tightened. That's awful." "Yes, but you know what was more awful? Her mother died 20 years ago, but Claire kept carrying the stones. She carried them to her wedding. She carried them through the births of her 3 children. She carried them to her job every day. The person who hurt her was long gone, but the hurt remained because Claire chose to carry it." "Chose?" Marcus's anger flared. "You think people choose to be hurt?" "No," Samuel said calmly, "but they choose what to do with that hurt. Claire didn't choose her mother's cruelty, but she chose every single day to pick up those stones and carry them, just like you." He gestured to Marcus's bag. "May I?" Marcus's hand instinctively tightened on the strap. "It's personal." "I know, but when's the last time you actually looked inside? Really looked?" The question unsettled Marcus more than he wanted to admit. He couldn't remember. The bag was always there, always heavy, but he never opened it anymore. It was just part of him, his constant companion, his burden, his identity. The realization hit him like cold water. Who was Marcus Chun without the anger, without the grievances, without the carefully maintained catalog of every wrong ever done to him? "I'll make you a deal," Samuel said. "Open the bag. Really look at what's inside. If you want to close it and walk away after that, I'll never bother you again. But if what you see changes anything, stay. Learn what I have to teach you." Marcus's hand shook as he slowly slid the bag off his shoulder. It hit the floor with a heavy thud that seemed too loud for its size. The leather was worn smooth from years of constant contact. The strap darkened with sweat and oils from his skin. This bag had been with him through everything. College, grad school, his first job, every relationship, every triumph and disaster. He knelt beside it, fingers hovering over the zipper. "What if I don't like what I see?" "Most people don't," Samuel said gently. "That's why they never look." Marcus pulled the zipper open. The bag should have contained his laptop, his sketchbook, his portable hard drive, his charging cables. Instead, as he stared into the opening, he saw stones. Hundreds of them. Thousands, maybe. Small pebbles and large rocks, smooth river stones and jagged shards, each one catching the light differently, each one impossibly real and impossibly metaphorical at the same time. "What?" Marcus reached in with trembling fingers and pulled out a stone. It was gray and rough, about the size of a walnut. The moment his skin touched it, he was 7 years old again, standing in the driveway while his father loaded boxes into a truck. "I'll be back soon, buddy," his father said, not meeting his eyes. "Your mom and I just need some time apart." When 7-year-old Marcus asked, "Soon," but he never came back, and Marcus had picked up that first stone and put it in his bag, starting a collection he didn't even know he was building. Marcus dropped the stone like it had burned him. It clattered on the floor, the sound echoing in the small shop. "I don't understand. How is this possible?" "It's always been possible," Samuel said. "You just couldn't see it before. Every hurt, every insult, every betrayal. You've kept them all. And they're heavy, Marcus. So impossibly heavy." Marcus pulled out another stone. This one was black and sharp-edged. Immediately, he was 14, in the school cafeteria, watching Amy Chun, the girl he'd worked up the courage to ask to the dance, laugh with her friends as she pointed at him. Marcus Chun? The weird, angry kid? I'd rather die. Another stone. His college professor, Dr. Harrison, handing back a design project with big red C marked across the top. Technically proficient, but creatively bankrupt. You need passion, Mr. Chun, not just precision. Marcus had worked for 3 weeks on that project, pouring everything into it. Another, his ex-girlfriend Rachel, 2 years before Sarah, telling him in a quiet voice that she couldn't do it anymore. You're always looking for a fight, Marcus, even when there isn't one. It's exhausting being with someone who treats every day like a war. Another, Chin Lu, his colleague, in David's office 6 months ago. He hadn't been meant to overhear, but he'd walked past and heard his name. Just so aggressive in meetings. Makes the clients uncomfortable. Honestly, David, I'm worried he might snap one day. The stones kept coming. Each one a memory, each memory a wound. His father leaving. His mother's depression afterward. The way she'd looked through Marcus instead of at him for years. The kids in middle school who'd tease him for being too serious. The girl in high school who'd said yes to a date only because her friends dared her to. The professor who'd failed him. The job he didn't get. The friend who betrayed a confidence. The driver who'd hit his car and blamed him. Sarah's disappointment, day after day, as she watched him shrink into his anger. By the time Marcus stopped pulling out stones, he was surrounded by them. They covered the floor around him in a rough circle, a mandala of pain. And the bag was still full. Impossibly, terrifyingly full. How? Marcus whispered. How can there be so many? Samuel knelt beside him, his old knees creaking. Because you never let any of them go. Every slight, every hurt, every moment someone made you feel small or angry or worthless. You picked it up and kept it. And the thing about stones, Marcus, is that they don't decompose. They don't fade. They just accumulate weight. But these things happen. These people really hurt me. My father really did abandon us. Dr. Harrison really did fail me. Chun Lu really did backstab me. Marcus's voice rose. You're saying I should just forget? Just let them get away with it? No, Samuel said firmly. I'm saying that every moment you spend carrying their stones, they win. Your father is living his life somewhere, probably not thinking about you at all. Dr. Harrison retired years ago and never knew how much his words wounded you. Chin Lu goes home every night unburdened by what she said. But you, he gestured at the stones, you carry all of it. You've turned yourself into a museum of your own pain. Marcus stared at the stones, and a terrible understanding began to dawn. They're not carrying any of this, are they? The people who hurt me, they don't have bags full of stones. Some do, Samuel said, but most don't. Most people hurt others and move on. They don't pack it up and carry it with them for decades. Only you do that. Only the person who was hurt. That's not fair. No, Samuel agreed. It's not. It's not fair that your father left. It's not fair that people were cruel. It's not fair that the world is full of casual violence and thoughtless words. But here's the thing, Marcus. Life's unfairness doesn't obligate you to carry these stones. Keeping them doesn't make things more fair. It just makes you heavier. Marcus picked up the first stone again, his father's abandonment, and held it in his palm. 20 years he'd been carrying this. 20 years of weight of anger, of that 7-year-old boy's confusion and pain. What am I supposed to do with them? That, Samuel said, standing slowly, is what I'm here to teach you. But first, you need to understand something crucial. He walked to a window overlooking the darkened market. Come here. Marcus stood, his legs stiff from kneeling, and joined Samuel at the window. The old man pointed to the street below, where people passed in small groups, laughing and talking, unburdened. Do you see them? Every single person down there has been hurt. Every one of them has been betrayed, disappointed, abandoned in some way. Life doesn't spare anyone. But look. He gestured at a young couple holding hands, at a group of friends sharing a joke, at a woman walking alone with a peaceful expression. They're not all carrying bags of stones. Maybe they just haven't been hurt as bad as me. Maybe, Samuel said. Or maybe they learned something you haven't yet. Maybe they learned that you can acknowledge the hurt without carrying it. You can say, yes, that happened, and it was wrong and it hurt me, without making it your entire identity. Marcus watched the people below, and something inside him cracked. I don't know how to do that. I've been angry for so long. I don't know who I am without it. That, Samuel said quietly, is the bravest thing you've said all night, and it's where we begin. Pause for just a second. If Marcus's struggle feels familiar, if you've ever wondered who you'd be without your anger or your pain, you're exactly where you need to be. Hit subscribe and become part of a community that's choosing lightness over weight. And tell me in the comments, what's the heaviest stone you're carrying right now? Let's continue Marcus's journey. Samuel made tea, strong and bitter, the way Marcus's grandmother used to make it before she passed. They sat in the back room of the shop, surrounded by empty bags and containers. The stones from Marcus's collection still scattered across the floor in the main room like evidence at a crime scene. Tell me about the day you started collecting, Samuel said. Marcus wrapped his hands around the warm cup, grateful for something to anchor him. My 7th birthday. My dad left that morning. Didn't even wait until after the party. The memory was crystal clear, preserved perfectly by pain. My mom tried to pretend everything was okay. Made a cake, invited my friends. But I could hear her cry in the bathroom between party games. And you decided right then that people hurt you. People do hurt you, Marcus said sharply. That's not a decision, that's a fact. Yes, Samuel agreed. People hurt people. It's one of the great truths of existence. But here's another truth. Reactions are choices. Your father leaving, that happened to you. You had no control over it. But the anger you felt, the story you told yourself about it, the stone you picked up and decided to carry forever, those were choices. I was 7 years old. I know. And 7-year-old you did the best he could with an impossible situation. He picked up that stone because it felt like keeping evidence, like if he carried the proof of his pain, someone would finally acknowledge it was real. Samuel's eyes were infinitely kind. But 20 years later, you're still doing the same thing. Still picking up stones. Still waiting for someone to acknowledge your pain. Marcus wanted to argue, but the words died in his throat, because Samuel was right. Every stone was a piece of evidence. Proof that Marcus had been wronged, that his anger was justified. As long as he carried them, no one could tell him he was overreacting, that he should just let it go, that he was being too sensitive. The thing is, Samuel continued, carrying evidence of your pain doesn't reduce the pain. It amplifies it. Every time you touch those stones, you relive the wound. Every time you feel the weight, you remind yourself of every way you've ever been hurt. You've been rehearsing your pain for 20 years. So what am I supposed to do? Marcus's voice broke. Just forget? Pretend none of it happened? No. Remembering and carrying are not the same thing. Samuel set down his cup and leaned forward. You can remember your father leaving without carrying the abandonment like a weight. You can acknowledge that Dr. Harrison was unfair without letting it define your sense of worth. You can know that Chinlu betrayed your trust without poisoning every future relationship with suspicion. How? Samuel stood and gestured for Marcus to follow. They walked back into the main room, where the stones still lay scattered. Pick one up? Any one. Marcus chose a medium-sized gray stone. The moment he touched it, he was back in high school, watching his best friend Trevor choose to sit with the popular kids at lunch instead of with Marcus. The casual dismissal, the way Trevor had looked right through him, the loneliness that followed. Now, Samuel said, I want you to do something very difficult. I want you to hold that stone and feel all the hurt it represents. Don't push it away. Really feel it. Marcus did. The old pain washed over him. Rejection, loneliness, the bitter understanding that even friendship could be conditional. His throat tightened. His eyes stung. Good, Samuel said softly. Now ask yourself, is Trevor carrying the stone? The question caught Marcus off guard. What? Is Trevor, wherever he is right now, carrying the weight of that day? Is he lying awake at night, consumed by guilt over choosing different lunch table? Marcus thought about it. He'd seen Trevor's Facebook a few times over the years. Trevor was married, had kids, seemed happy. No, he admitted, he probably doesn't even remember it. Exactly. So you've been carrying his stone, not just the hurt he caused, but also the weight of remembering it, analyzing it, letting it shape how you see friendships. You've been carrying a burden that Trevor put down the moment he sat at that other table. Samuel paused. You've been carrying stones that were never yours to carry. The words hit Marcus like a revelation and a curse simultaneously. All of them. He looked at the scattered stones. All of these, they're all just mine? I'm the only one carrying them. Yes, but that's... Marcus's voice rose to a shout. That's not fair. They hurt me. They should have to carry something. They should suffer like I've suffered. Should they? Samuel's voice was gentle but unyielding. Will your suffering make your father come back? Will your anger undo Dr. Harrison's grade? Will carrying these stones for another 20 years change anything that happened? No, but what? But you deserve revenge? But someone should pay. Samuel shook his head. Marcus, can you hear yourself? You've been paying. Every day, every hour, you've been paying the price for other people's actions. You've been punishing yourself for crimes you didn't commit. The truth of it crashed over Marcus like a wave. He looked at the stones, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, and saw them clearly for the first time, not as evidence or justification, but as chains, self-imposed chains, dragging him down, holding him back, weigh him down until he could barely move, barely breathe, barely exist as anything other than the sum of his wounds. I don't. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. I don't know how to let go. What if letting go means they win? What if it means admitting that what they did was okay? Letting go doesn't mean any of that, Samuel said. It means freeing yourself. You can say, my father's abandonment was wrong, without carrying the stone of it. You can acknowledge that person hurt me, without making it your identity. Release isn't about them. It's about you. Marcus picked up another stone. His mother's depression, her absence even when she was present, the way she'd seemed to blame him somehow for his father leaving. The stone was heavy and cold. What if I can't? You can, but you have to choose it. Every single stone, you have to choose to put it down. Samuel walked the scattered stones and picked one up, a smooth river stone. This one, what is it? Marcus touched it, and the memory flooded back. Sarah, 3 weeks ago, voice breaking as she told him she was leaving. I love you, Marcus, but I can't love you more than you hate the world. I can't fight your battles for you anymore. I can't be happy enough for both of us. Fresh pain lanced through him. Sarah, he whispered, are you going to carry this one too? Samuel asked, add it to the collection? Let it join all the others, weighing you down for the next 20 years. But she left me. She gave up on me. She left your anger, Samuel corrected. She left the exhaustion of loving someone who was determined to suffer. And I think, his voice softened, if you're honest with yourself, you know she had no choice. Because you didn't leave any room in your life for her. The stones took up all the space. Marcus looked at the stone in Samuel's hand, then at all the others scattered around him. He thought of Sarah's face, the love and sorrow mixed together in her final goodbye. He thought of the man he'd been when they met, still angry, still wounded, but trying at least to be more than his pain. And then he thought of the man he'd become, so consumed by old hurts that there was no room for new joy. She was right to leave, he said, the words like glass in his throat. Yes, Samuel agreed. And you were wrong to make her stay as long as she did. You were wrong to let your stones build walls between you. You were wrong to react to her love like it was another attack. I didn't mean to. I know, but intent doesn't change impact. Your stones have been hurting everyone around you, Marcus. Every person who tried to get close, every friend who reached out, every opportunity that presented itself. You met them all with the weight of your accumulated pain. You've been so busy carrying the past that you couldn't receive the present. Marcus sank to the floor, surrounded by stones, and something inside him finally broke. Not broke like shattered, broke like a dam finally giving way, releasing a flood held back too long. He sobbed, great heaving gasps that shook his whole body, 20 years of grief and rage and loneliness pouring out all at once. Samuel knelt beside him and placed a weathered hand on his shoulder. It's all right. Let it out. You've been holding it in for so long. I'm so tired. Marcus gasped between sobs. I'm so tired of being angry. I'm so tired of carrying all of this, but I don't know how to stop. It's all I know how to do. Then learn something new, Samuel said. Right now, this moment, you can start learning. How? Samuel picked up the stone representing Marcus's father. Start here, with the first one, the heaviest one. He placed it in Marcus's palm. Feel it, acknowledge it, say what's true about it. Marcus held the stone, tears still streaming down his face. My father left. It hurt me. It shaped me. It made me believe that people always leave, that love is temporary, that I'm not worth staying for. Good. Now say what else is true. What else? Is it true that you're not worth staying for? Is that objectively true, or is it a story you told yourself? Marcus thought about Sarah, who had stayed for 2 years despite everything, about his friends in college who had tried to break through his walls, about his mother, who despite her depression had still shown up to every school event, still made his favorite meals, still tried in her broken way to love him. It's a story. Yes, a story you've been telling yourself for 20 years. A story you've used to explain every hurt, every loss, every failed relationship. But it's just a story, Marcus, not truth. Samuel's eyes held his. So here's what you do. You acknowledge the hurt. My father leaving hurt me. But then you release the story you build around it. You say, but his leaving was about him, not about my worth. I am not defined by his choice. I am not carrying this anymore. Just like that. Just like that. And then Samuel made a throwing motion. You put the stone down. You don't destroy it. Don't deny it happened. Don't pretend it didn't hurt. You simply stop carrying it. Marcus looked at the stone in his hand, feeling its weight, its texture, the way it had pressed into his consciousness for 2 decades. Then, in a motion that felt both monumental and simple, he set it on the floor and took his hand away. The stone sat there, inert, neutral, just a stone. And Marcus felt, for the first time in 20 years, the tiniest bit lighter. Now the next one, Samuel said quietly. The process took hours. 1 stone at a time, Marcus picked them up, felt the memories they contained, acknowledged the hurt they represented, and then, the hardest part, chose to put them down. Dr. Harrison's harsh critique. His words hurt me, but 1 bad grade doesn't define my ability. I've created beautiful work since then. I'm not carrying this anymore. Down went the stone. Trevor's lunchtime betrayal. That rejection hurt. But it was 1 moment in middle school, not a referendum on my worth as a friend. Trevor made a choice about himself, not about me. I'm not carrying this anymore. Down went the stone. His mother's depression. Her sadness hurt me. I wanted her to be happy, to be present. But her depression was her illness, not my failure. I can love her and still release the weight of trying to fix her. I'm not carrying this anymore. Down went the stone. Chun-Lu's betrayal. Her words to David hurt me, but maybe she was genuinely concerned. Maybe her intent wasn't malicious. And even if it was, carrying my anger about it only hurts me. I'm not carrying this anymore. Down went the stone. Some stones were easier to release than others. Some Marcus put down 3 or 4 times before they stayed down, the old habit of picking them back up so deeply ingrained that his hands moved automatically to retrieve them. But each time, Samuel gently reminded him, that's not yours to carry. Put it down. By the time dawn light began filtering through the shop windows, Marcus had released hundreds of stones. His back ached from bending over. His hands were scraped and raw. His eyes were swollen from crying. But the bag was noticeably lighter. There's still more, Marcus said, peering inside. The bag wasn't empty, not nearly, but he could see the bottom now. So many more. Yes, Samuel agreed. A lifetime of hurts doesn't disappear in one night, but you've started. You've learned what release feels like. Now you can practice it every day. Every day. Did you think this was a one-time thing? Samuel smiled. You spent 20 years collecting stones, Marcus. You'll spend time releasing them. But here's the good news. You already know how. And from now on, when something hurts you, when someone disappoints you or angers you, you'll have a choice. You can pick up a new stone and add it to the collection, or you can feel the hurt, acknowledge it, and let it pass through you without becoming weight. Marcus tested the bag strap on his shoulder. It was still heavy, but bearable now. Manageable. What if I mess up? What if I start collecting again? Then you course correct. This isn't about perfection, Marcus. It's about awareness. It's about asking yourself, every time you feel that old familiar anger rising, is this situation worth picking up a stone for? Do I want to carry this for the next 20 years? Sometimes the answer will be yes. There are legitimate reasons to be angry, real injustices that deserve your fury. But most of the time, Samuel gestured at the stones still scattered across the floor. Most of the time, you'll realize you're about to pick up a stone that doesn't belong to you. The shop bell chimed, and Marcus realized the market outside was waking up. Vendors were arriving, setting up their stalls, beginning the daily rhythm of commerce and life. The world had kept turning while Marcus had his revelation, as it always did. I should go, Marcus said, though he wasn't sure where to. Back to his apartment? Back to Sarah to try to explain? Back to the office to face David and Chin Lu with the strange new lightness? Yes, Samuel agreed. Go back into the world. Practice what you've learned. Come back if you need to. The shop is always here. But Marcus... He waited until Marcus met his eyes. Remember that every person you meet is carrying their own stones. Some know it, some don't. Be gentle with them. Be gentle with yourself. Change doesn't happen all at once. Marcus nodded, words inadequate to express what he felt. He shouldered his bag, still heavy, but no longer crushing, and walked out into the early morning light. The next weeks were the hardest of Marcus's life, not because of external events, but because of the constant internal work of awareness. Every time someone cut him off in traffic, he felt his hand reaching for a stone. Every time a co-worker made a dismissive comment, he felt the old familiar urge to pick it up and pack it away. But now he could see what he was doing. Now he had a choice. Sometimes he made the right choice. When Jennifer from accounting made another cheerful comment he would have previously interpreted as mockery, he paused, took a breath, and considered that maybe she was just cheerful. Maybe her happiness wasn't an attack on his sadness. He smiled back, and the moment passed without weight. Other times he failed. When David assigned him to work under Chin Lu on a new project, Marcus felt the rage flare hot and immediate. He picked up that stone, clutched it tight, and carried it for 3 days before he finally sat down at his desk, pulled it out, and looked at it clearly. Was this about Chin Lu? Or was it about his own fear of being vulnerable again? Was it about the backstabbing, or about his terror of trusting anyone? He put the stone down, apologized to Chin Lu for his coldness, started fresh. The biggest test came on a Friday evening 3 weeks after his night in Samuel's shop. Marcus was walking through the market, his bag lighter than it had been in years, when he saw her, Sarah, sitting in an outdoor cafe with friends, laughing at something one of them said. The sight of her happy without him was like a knife between his ribs. His hand went automatically to his bag. There was a stone there, ready to be claimed. Sarah abandoned you. She gave up. She didn't love you enough to stay. The stone was smooth and heavy, well worn from similar thoughts over the past weeks. But then Marcus heard Samuel's voice in his head. Is this yours to carry? He stood on the sidewalk, pedestrians flowing around him, and forced himself to really look at Sarah. She was happy, genuinely, freely happy in a way she'd never been with him. Her face was lighter, her laugh unrestricted. And the truth hit him hard. Staying with him had been crushing her. His stones hadn't just weighed him down. They'd weighed down everyone who loved him. Sarah looked up then, and their eyes met across the distance. Marcus saw the worry flash across her face, the tension enter her shoulders. She was bracing for his anger, for his scene, for his demand that she justify her happiness without him. Instead, Marcus smiled. It wasn't a fake smile or a bitter one. It was real, if small. He nodded once, a gesture that tried to say, I understand. I'm glad you're okay. I'm sorry for the weight I made you carry. Sarah's eyes widened. She smiled back, tentative but genuine. Marcus walked on, leaving the stone unpicked, and realized his eyes were wet but his heart was lighter. 6 months later, Marcus sat in Samuel's shop again, having tea. The bag sat beside him, and though it wasn't empty, it was manageable now. He'd learned to maintain it, to keep releasing stones rather than accumulating them. He'd learned that some days were harder than others, that old patterns had deep roots, but that awareness itself was half the battle. "I went back to see my mother," Marcus told Samuel. "First time in 3 years. I couldn't before. The stone of her depression was too heavy. But I went last month." "How is it?" "Hard. She's still struggling. Probably always will be. But I realized I could love her without carrying her illness as my own weight. I could support her without making her pain my identity." Marcus paused. "She cried when she saw me, said she thought I hated her." "What did you tell her?" "That I did for a while, but that I was learning not to carry that hate anymore. That I was learning the difference between acknowledging hurt and being defined by it." Marcus smiled. "She didn't totally understand, but she hugged me. First time in, God, I don't even know how long." Samuel nodded, pleased. "And work?" "Still complicated. David and I will probably never be close. But I stopped waiting for him to apologize or acknowledge what he did. That stone was too heavy, and carrying it was only hurting me. I'm looking for a new position at another firm. Fresh start." "And Sarah?" Marcus's smile turned bittersweet. "She's with someone new. Saw them at a gallery opening last week. He seems good for her. Makes her laugh. Doesn't carry a bag full of stones." He took a sip of tea. I felt jealousy flare up. Felt my hand reaching for that stone. But then I asked myself, do I want Sarah back, or do I want to punish her for moving on? And the honest answer was the second one. So I let it go. Wished them well, even if only in my head. That's growth, Marcus. It's hard, though. Every day there's something. Someone cuts me off in traffic, or makes a rude comment, or treats me unfairly. And every time I have to decide, is this worth carrying? Will picking up this stone make my life better? And most of the time, the answer is no. But God, Samuel, sometimes I miss it. Miss it. The anger, the certainty, the justified rage. Marcus looked at his bag. When I was carrying all those stones, at least I knew who I was. I was the wronged one, the victim, the person who had every right to be furious at the world. Now I'm just, who am I without that? Samuel leaned forward, his old eyes bright. That, my friend, is the real question. And it's the question that will shape the rest of your life. Who are you when you're not defined by your wounds? What do you love when you're not busy hating? What can you create when you're not carrying crushing weight? I don't know yet. Good. Not knowing is the beginning of discovery. You spent 20 years knowing exactly who you were. The angry man, the wounded one, the stone carrier. Now you get to find out who you might become. A year after that first night in Samuel's shop, Marcus Chin stood in the Pike Place Market at dawn, his nearly empty bag slung over one shoulder. He'd sold his first independent architecture design the week before, a community center that prioritized light and openness, spaces for people to gather and breathe. The clients had chosen his design specifically because they said it felt hopeful. Marcus didn't think he'd ever been called hopeful before. He was meeting someone for coffee in an hour. Rachel, a woman he'd met at a friend's birthday party. She'd asked him about the bag, and he'd told her the truth. It used to be full of stones. Hurts I'd been carrying for years. I'm learning to travel lighter. She'd looked at him with understanding eyes and said, I have a bag too, working on emptying mine. Maybe it would go somewhere. Maybe it wouldn't. But Marcus found he could approach it without fear, without the crushing weight of every past relationship failure coloring his expectations. He could just see where it went. The market was quiet at this hour, vendors still setting up. Samuel's shop was closed. It was only open when it needed to be. Samuel had once explained, when someone who needed it walked by. But Marcus came here sometimes anyway, just to sit and remember. He pulled out his bag and looked inside. There were still stones there. His father's abandonment, that one he didn't think would ever fully go away. Some scars from childhood that were too deep to entirely release. A few recent hurts that he was still working on letting go, but the bag no longer defined him. The stones no longer controlled his every reaction. He could carry them without being crushed by them. He could acknowledge the hurt without making it his identity. A seagull landed nearby, and Marcus found himself smiling at his bold, fearless strut. When had he last noticed birds? When had the world stopped being a threat and become, once again, a place of small beauties? He reached into his bag and pulled out a stone he'd been holding on to, one of the last from that original collection. It was from a moment in high school when a teacher had told him he'd never amount to anything creative. Marcus had built a successful architecture career partly to prove that teacher wrong. But revenge, he'd learned, was just another stone, another weight. "You were wrong about me," Marcus said quietly to the memory. "But I don't need you to know that anymore. I don't need your apology or acknowledgement. I don't need to carry you." He set the stone on a nearby ledge and walked away, leaving for someone else to find or for the rain to wash away. It didn't matter. It wasn't his anymore. The sun was rising over Puget Sound, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. Marcus stopped to watch it, really watch it, without the filter of anger or resentment or accumulated grievance. It was beautiful. He was light. And for the first time in 20 years, Marcus Chen felt free. 5 years later, Marcus Chen's architecture firm had become known for designs that emphasized emotional space, buildings that made people feel lighter, freer, more connected. His signature work, the Release Center in downtown Seattle, featured walls inscribed with anonymous stories of weight people had carried and let go. It had become a pilgrimage site for those learning to travel lighter. Marcus still carried a bag. He probably always would. But now it held sketchbooks and ideas, not stones. When hurt came, and it still did, because that's what life does, he felt it, acknowledged it, and then asked himself Samuel's question, "Is this yours to carry?" Usually the answer was no. He never saw Samuel again after that last visit to the shop. When he went looking for a few months later, the storefront was empty, the sign gone. Other vendors in the market swore there had never been a shop there at all. Marcus didn't know if Samuel had been real or imaginary, teacher or dream. It didn't matter. The lesson was real. The practice was real. The lightness was real. And sometimes when Marcus saw someone moving to the world with obvious weight on their shoulders, he'd approach them, ask about their bag, and tell them a story about an old merchant and a shop full of empty containers. Some people listened. Some didn't. That was their choice. Just like putting down the stones had been his. This story was for anyone who's ready to put down the stones. If that's you, subscribe and join this community of people choosing peace over pain. Leave a comment. Tell me which part of Marcus's story hit you hardest, or share what stone you're finally ready to release. Your journey to lightness starts now. Let's talk about what this means for you. Your reaction is your power. Your peace is a choice. The stones we carry, anger, resentment, old hurts, we pick them up ourselves. Every slight we hold on to, every grudge we nurse, every wound we rehearse becomes weight that only we carry. The people who hurt us, they've moved on. They're living their lives unburdened. But we crush ourselves beneath accumulated grievances year after year until we can't remember what it felt like to be light. Here's the unbearable truth. You cannot control what others do to you, but you can always control your reaction. You cannot stop people from hurting you, but you can stop carrying that hurt like treasure. You cannot change the past, but you can release your grip on it. Releasing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean what happened was okay. It doesn't mean they win. It means you stop punishing yourself for crimes others committed. The practice, every day, ask yourself, what stones am I carrying that aren't mine? What weight am I shouldering that serves no purpose except to crush me? What hurt am I rehearsing that keeps me from being present? Then, one stone at a time, put them down. Feel the hurt. Acknowledge it was real. Say out loud, that hurt me. That was wrong. That shaped me. But then add, and I'm not carrying it anymore. I'm choosing peace over proof. I'm choosing lightness over being right. The irony is that the people who hurt you don't care if you carry the stones. They've forgotten, moved on, or never cared in the first place. The only person your stones are crushing is you. So drop them. Not all at once. That's not realistic. But one at a time, day by day, moment by moment. Choose calm over rage. Choose release over revenge. Choose presence over rehearsing the past. Remember, every moment you spend carrying their stones, they win. Every day you let old hurts dictate new reactions, you're still letting them control you. True power isn't in perfect revenge. It's in perfect release. Your past is heavy enough without you constantly lifting it back up. Put down the stones. Pick up your life instead. The measure of your growth isn't how rarely you get hurt. It's how quickly you choose not to carry the hurt.